since I'm on my laptop. There we go.
Where are you?
Okay. Hi, everybody. We are in DC actually for FinCon. Unfortunately, United changed our flight at the very last minute. We were scrambling yesterday a little bit. And so I don't know, you guys might have seen my post. I was like, Jill might be on the call, but she might be from her phone, which, just might be a little tricky. We landed about an hour ago and kind of sprinted over here. So we rented an Airbnb right by the convention center for FinCon, and there's 6 of us financial coaches staying in a condo together. So we're super pumped about it. We're really excited. I'm sure it'll be a ton of fun. And so I'm actually in our bedroom. So I would turn it around, but it's really nothing to see. There's kind of a bland space. But so let's dive into getting your questions answered. I can't wait to hear what questions you guys have been mulling over. So whoever wants to go first, go ahead and raise your hand. That's the trick. So make sure you raise your hand. And again, I think you just click on participants, and then there should be an option on the right-hand side to sort of raise your hand. If you're on your phone, I want to say you either swipe right or swipe left or click more or something. If you guys want to leave in the chat option, like how to do that. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. So Candy, I'm going to go ahead and open you up, Candy. And if you want to, Candy, how did you just do that? How did you do your hand again, or raise your hand?
So I'm on an iPad. So I went to the top right corner, found participants. It dropped down. I selected myself and then raise hand.
Yep, perfect. Okay, great. That's what I thought. So that's for an iPad as well. So iPad and computer, I think, are similar. Thank you. And then we'll ask other people how they do it, just in case anybody needs help. You can also just wave at me like this. Like literally, you can just go like this, and I'll answer your questions too. So Candy, let's kick us off. Ask your question, my dear.
So just a question. You might have already mentioned this, but how long? So I've been reading a lot about my why story, and I have not done mine just yet. I'm putting it on paper and doing the exercises, but and I listened to your interview, but my question is, how long should it be? Because I know there's different variations of your why story, and you want to use different ones at different times, maybe leave some things out, add some things in. So are we talking like concise, like few minutes, or longer, or what were your thoughts?
Yeah, good question. And I wish I could give you like the best one is X number of minutes. And unfortunately, I can't do that. What I'll tell you is longer does not always mean better. There's another sort of conversation I think I was having with Serenity, and I said, super deep and, authentic and heavy is not always better either. So if you don't have like some really deep childhood story that led you to this, like don't make it up because you feel like it has to be deeper is better or something. Anyway. And so I would say when you're doing your story the very first time, Candy, it's probably going to be longer than what maybe I would be recommending, okay? But I think it's good to know all the pieces of the puzzle, because then you can just remove certain pieces depending on the audience. So I'm not sure what's happening here on my screen.
Someone shared their screen.
Okay, so I'm not sure why.
Sorry, that's me.
Okay, get it. Okay, I'm gonna, I don't know how to take that off, sorry. So,
There we go.
Okay, cool.
Fixed it, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. So let's see, it's easier to pull things out, I think, than to like have it feel incomplete because you're going for shorter or most efficient. And not only that, but there are pieces that might feel very relevant to you now that you find the more you tell the story, they don't feel as relevant to you later, kind of thing. When I'm presenting and I'm on stage or something, my why story is longer because I'm trying to connect with more people in the audience a little bit better. It's not drawn out by any means, but it's longer. During like a paid Eureka session or discovery session or a client session that they're paying for, I try to keep it as concise as possible because I kind of feel like I'm on their time. And I want to provide as much value as possible during that time, and learning every detail about my why story is not as relevant. Does that make sense? And then there are times where when I'm meeting with a financial advisor, I maybe expand a bit on, what my financial coaching career was like, and less about other aspects. So you'll find yourself doing that where all the components stay the same, but you just sometimes like elaborate on one and not the other, and then switch the next time. So I would say for your video for the group, it might be longer because you're not talking to your ideal client yet. So you don't know exactly what's totally, completely relevant yet. Does that make sense?
It does. And then we can also, like you said, it's easier to take things out. I could tell you more about why, and then you can say, yeah, but maybe you don't really need to put that in, or what were your thoughts behind that? So I think a little bit longer is okay. I feel like I ramble.
Yeah, and you know what? It's okay. Maybe that's a little bit of feedback I give you, but maybe it's more specific than that, which is like you tend to ramble on this aspect of it. Like maybe some people ramble more when it comes to the emotional component of things, where they're trying to really make sure the person understands what they were feeling. And other people don't even want to touch that aspect of their story, and they ramble when it comes to like the numbers and the strategy and the how they got out of debt and like all of that aspect of it. So I would say, Candy, try not to edit yourself quite so much. Like do what feels right, and then we can give you that feedback and sort of give you some really specific areas to focus on. And other areas will be like, yeah, that was great. Just that part is perfect. Don't touch that part, kind of thing. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm curious, is it, since we are in an Airbnb, is the audio okay for you guys? Is it, everyone's coming through fine on my end. I just want to make sure that like it's okay on your guys' end. Everybody can hear me okay? Okay, good. Okay, let me know, because sometimes if I turn my video off but just keep audio on, sometimes that does help with like wherever you're at. But hopefully I like to see you guys, and I think it's always best if you can see me. So we'll keep this going until you tell me it's not working. Okay, Joan, you are up next, my dear. Thank you for raising your hand.
Okay, thanks. So I did my why story. I just kind of winged it, as you saw on Saturday. And I talked about my mom and all. And then afterwards, what's really weird is other things came up from that, because the reason that my mom was doing what she was doing is because my father was being a spendthrift. And she was trying to hang on to something and basically trying to hold the family together, working when she didn't want to, etc. And eventually he did figure it out and got his act together. I mean, there was a lot of issues. There was, alcoholism and all that kind of stuff as well. But ultimately things, once he got his act together, she immediately quit work because she never wanted to work. But what it made me start realizing is that there are a lot of women that I know, because I've talked about working with single women, divorced women, widowed women, and anytime I've thought of relationships, people in a relationship, I think it's important to work with both together. But I'm starting to realize that there are a lot of women I know that are in relationships where they have no clue about the money, where they don't feel comfortable asking their husband about the money, where they know there's an issue and they are trying to hang on. I mean, there's a real dysfunction.
Yeah. And where's the question in there for you? Like what's coming up for you with that?
Does it make sense to work with a married woman who asks for financial advice but doesn't want without her husband? I mean,
yeah, this is a great question. So one of the unique characteristics that we see in financial coaches is whether or not they would meet with a spouse individually, or if you require them to be together in sessions. Do you feel as if you can have an impact and help somebody when they come in by themselves, even though they're married? Or do you feel like your process or your style or your, coaching philosophy, money philosophy doesn't support that? And it's something that you probably have to do a little bit of soul searching on. And there are a few people I can recommend for whichever one you choose. So we have the expectation, and we're very clear that we have to have both spouses in the initial session. But there are other coaches. Elizabeth Enright Phillips is one of them. She's a wonderful, very successful financial coach who actually tends to work more with just one spouse, because her opinion is that she wants to help as best as possible, even if they don't feel like their spouse is on board. And I would say that there's unique challenges and benefits to both. And so I think you have to kind of decide, is that a deal breaker for you, Joan? So like, am I okay? Would I prefer meeting with both people in a relationship, but I'm okay if one of them's not engaged? Or is it something that I'm not okay with? Is it sort of, do I leave it up to them, or is that something that I think is very important to like my money philosophy? Does that make sense? And just kind of ask yourself that question.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, I'm working with a couple right now, and I like working with both of them because they're both involved in the challenges. You know, it takes two to create the situation, but it's just coming up so much that's why I figured I'd ask.
You know, I think one thing, Joan, if it's continuously coming up for you, that is, you know, sometimes our clients are telling us exactly what they need and we just need to be listening. You know, other times we have a million ideas and we can be like squirrel, 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 like, oh, I want to create a program for this and I want to create a program for that. And we have to like, I think the vision for our business is sort of the filter that we run everything through by. So like, does this support my bigger vision for the business? Is this part of that? Is it in alignment with it? If so, then I'm going to add it to my list of ideas. If it doesn't, then I'm just having like that squirrel mentality. So for you, Joan, one of the things I'm hearing is that maybe the women coming to you are looking for coaching around how to grow confidence in communicating with your spouse about money, maybe how to have a bit more knowledge so that you can have that conversation more confidently. Maybe it's about like, here's some things to say, here's some mindset around it, here's why it's important for you to understand the money in your relationship and not just like delegate it all to your spouse. And like that could almost be a 3-part series on your blog, or it could be like a video thing that people like lean into you on. Like maybe you do 3 videos where you talk about that and then they can hire you after that sort of thing. So it could be like the lead in if that's where they're coming to you from. And then the idea is that hopefully you can get them through that initial step with just themselves and just you, and then maybe get them to a place where they're able to bring their spouse on board.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know. I know that was kind of heavy, so let me know, like let that simmer and see if that feels right.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Serenity.
Hi. So I was just noticing that the execution week said that the content is not there yet. So I'm wondering, does that mean there's a whole lot more homework or what?
No, it's just the way Thinkific works. When it opens up, it just says like, you know, there's nothing new. And it says something like, this is the purpose of this week and that kind of thing. But the way the back office works is that we have the date. So it's like technically week 2. So that starts on Thursday. So it's every Thursday that everything drips out. So if you click on it, it says it's not available to you yet, but there's not, it's execution, I promise. There are, and I can't remember if it might be like week 6, I think, which is technically an execution week. There is like an extra video in there, but an extra coaching video.
Have 2 weeks to do everything that is on
week 1, lesson 1. Yeah.
Well,
So yeah. So lesson 1 is technically, you have 2 weeks to complete everything. So we have found that in the first ramp up, the lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3 are the most intense. You're creating so much and you're thinking about it so much. And there's some things that are just going to take a lot of time of like tinkering, even if you're not an over tinkerer, right? So the execution time is meant to help you so that you're not rushing through the important stuff. Does that make sense?
that is such a relief.
And then after that, there's still homework, but it's like less intense work. And some of it, like I said, is sort of like when you're at this point in your business, come back and like this, you're going to follow these steps, but it's just more about planting the seed now and less about actually doing the work now. Because the idea is in the first 3 lessons, sorry if I'm rambling a little bit, you are going to essentially build everything in your business in the first 3 lessons. So that the idea is that you're perfecting and tweaking and everything after that, but starting to see clients by at the end of the academy. Does that make sense? If you want to, if you're ready for that. Not everybody is like ready to take that step by the end of the academy, just maybe like life obligations, right? But if that's what you want, you should have it built where now it's just kind of like, okay, go little girl, go fly birdie. And I'm going to say birdie, not little girl, but go fly little birdie. You know what I mean?
Yes. All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. All right, next question. There are no other hand raised. So what other thoughts are you guys having? Thank you I see some committed folks. We've got somebody in her car outside, office place maybe meeting. So thank you for fitting this in. I'm glad to see so many people on the call. What else? Anybody have their dream client profile? Who's working? I know it's still a lot of why stories. You know, we're still early. We're not even a weekend yet, but you'll be, you know, finalizing your why stories and then moving into sort of like, who's my ideal client? Who is that painting for me? And what's starting to form in my mind with that. So is anybody on that step already, the ideal client? Yeah, Trent is. Anybody need
I'm
help?
just starting it, but
Go ahead, Cynthia. Sorry. Oh, I can't hear you now, Cynthia. Can you guys hear her? Okay, glad it's not just me. I'm always so worried about Wi-Fi in a new place. Okay, try now, Cynthia. No, it's weird because I heard you just fine for a minute and now all of a sudden you're not there. In the bottom left corner of your screen where the mute button is, there's a little arrow. If you click on that, does it have the right microphone? Are you pointing to the right microphone source, Cynthia? That's so weird because I could hear you for a second. So maybe did you shimmy with a cord or anything? Kick the cord or? No one else can hear her, right? Just want to make sure.
No.
Okay, it's not my end. Okay. Cynthia, you can kind of keep playing with it and you can text your answer in the chat or your question in the chat if you want, just so I can make sure I get your question answered. See, you can always try and post it in the group too afterwards as a video and I can video message you back. Any other questions while Cynthia is typing her question? Anyone else working on their ideal client?
not yet.
No, okay. I think it's, I'll be curious to hear once you guys do. I want to warn you that there can be some mixed emotions there a little bit. You can feel really excited, like you have total clarity and you can see this person. And it can also feel a little scary, like you realize by focusing on that person and having total clarity on that person that you see there's a lot of people that you aren't going to be helping. And it can be a little hard to stomach, hard to admit. So please share that if anyone's feeling some mixed emotions around that. Okay, Serenity, you've got your hand raised. Thank you. What's your question?
So I've learned that it's instead of narrowing my ideal client, it's kind of expanded it instead.
Ooh.
That scares me a little bit.
Yeah. Tell me more. How is it expanding?
I really thought it was going to be like single moms, but it's just women. And I'll be quite honest with you, I do not have a good relationship with the idea of women.
Yeah.
So knowing that I'm really having to embrace that wholeheartedly and be vulnerable with them, knowing that there's been women who are not very nice,
Mm-hmm.
is just a lot to take in, you know. But it's really that whole life coach aspect of, I feel like if people don't know who they are and what they're passionate about, then they're not even gonna know where they want their money to go.
Yeah. I actually think that this actually is like what I'm seeing is your vision for your business just coming more in alignment with what you said you already wanted, which is more of a community feel. So while your ideal client is expanding in sort of what they're maybe it's not quite as narrow as far as being mothers versus women, but they likely all are experiencing similar things. And that's what you're realizing is just that the deciding factor of how they're different is not whether or not they've had children. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's something else though now that you're going to hone in on. And I have a feeling, Serenity, your whole goal is to build community. I have a feeling that based on what's happening, you're expanding this a little bit. You'll likely have other coaches or experts that are part of this community that are seen as like the expert of your health and fitness, the expert of like your parenting style, right? So like, because I feel like that's what's happening as well. It's expanding a little bit. I think it's almost just more in alignment with what you wanted anyway.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, cool. Let's see. So I would say keep, I can, yeah, just one second. I wanted to say really one more thing. Good. Yes, but I can hear you, Cynthia. is keep exploring it though. Cause I love the fact that like you went in thinking you knew what the answer would be, and you're finding that your path is taking you a little bit, not in a totally different direction, but just sort of like, and I love that you're just trusting the process and trusting the journey to figure it out. So please keep exploring that, because I do think you're getting closer and closer, even though it feels like now you're kind of going in a different direction. I think it's just, you're listening to your gut, which is really important. So yeah. You're welcome. Okay, Cynthia.
So I got the new camera.
Yeah, it looks great.
Thank you, but everything on my computer just seems to be wonky now, so I apologize.
Okay, so one thing, that's okay. One thing about this camera is it does have a microphone built in, but I don't think it's a very high quality microphone. So what might be happening is that it keeps connecting both the video camera and the audio. And so you just have to change your settings to like choose either whatever microphone source you're using. If it's like the input or the default or the internal microphone or whatever it's called. So whatever you had before.
Okay, well, I was just using the microphone on the computer itself, but I don't know, it went out, so I switched it to the microphone on the camera for today.
Yeah, well, it sounds crystal clear. So, and it probably is better than like the audio in your camera. I just like to have the microphone stand, so.
Okay, so I did my video then on my Y video, and it's just like on my computer, but for some reason I couldn't get it to load up onto Facebook into our group.
Weird. Okay.
So help me with
You
that.
should be able to. Yeah. So on the left-hand side, when you're in the Facebook group, on the left-hand side, there's a button that says videos on it. And if you click, let me just go in there. If you click on that, then there's a spot that says upload video. And I'm wondering if you go that route versus, I'm assuming you're trying to like just click and drag it into a post, Cynthia?
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you go that route as far as like uploading it under the videos tab. Yeah, so if you go to videos and then add video.
It's on the left.
It's on the yep, on the left-hand side it says videos. You click on that. And then on the right-hand side of the next screen, it says add video. So maybe try posting it there and see if that works. If that doesn't work, Cynthia, go ahead and just private message it to me, and I can try and upload it, because I can just try and like download it from there or something and see if I can't get it to work. I'll just troubleshoot a little bit.
Hey,
Okay.
Cynthia?
Yeah.
I clicked on it. I saw. I know what you're talking about because your face didn't show, but I clicked on it and the video popped up.
Good. Okay, so it should be, yeah. I don't think it's not working. I think because there's a lot of videos in there. I think it's either something's wrong with the video or whatever, but try those two things, Cynthia, and see if that works.
Okay, yeah, because I ended up deleting it because I saw your response, Joan. So I'm like, okay, it still isn't working. So I've only worked on it.
Sometimes too, it takes, like, it'll say it's, posted, but it's just not showing up. I just sit there for a few minutes and see. Sometimes it just takes a little while, but you can't really see that it's actually thinking or doing anything. And then like, even after it says it's posted, like if you refresh a few times and like, it does eventually show up. So maybe just try it that way. Try to add the video too, Cynthia, and see if that helps. Okay, cool.
If not, then you all will get a live video.
Yay, we would love live too. All right, Trent, your hand is raised.
Okay, you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So I guess my question with the ideal client is, since being brand new and just starting from ground floor, is do I really know who my ideal client is, or is it more who I think I might want to work with right now?
You'll never know for sure. And even if you did know, it could be temporary, in the sense that like, as you change as a person, as you grow, as your life, value system changes, like your ideal client morphs over time, but it tends to be a more fluid thing. And you can usually tell that it's happening. And I'll explain that in a little bit. But so I would say right now, what you're trying to do, Trent, is not necessarily like know that it's 100% correct, but instead of just sort of like answering some questions like, so who do I want my ideal client to be, and like, what do they look like? And what kind of brand of clothing do they wear? Like, it just feels so arbitrary that way. The idea is that your why story and your experiences through life can help you to simply narrow it down, right? And for some people, it's like becomes really obvious who their ideal client is through these exercises. And other people, it's like, I've at least now given myself some things that I know I care about because they're innately a part of me. Does that make sense? And so that, it just helps me to narrow
totally.
down a little bit. And that's what you're shooting for. It's not that it's perfect, because it won't be perfect, but that it's at least way more accurate than just sort of like arbitrarily trying to figure it out.
Okay. In line with what I was asked you a few questions before you guys shut off earlier today with talking about the partnership. My wife and I would like to do this together.
Yeah.
And
Great
having
question, by the way.
different ideal clients, and do we share an ideal vision and things like that? So just kind of wondering.
So good. And this is where I'm going to challenge you guys to go through like the exercises on your own and see the similarities. See if you guys really do have so much in common, but try to make it that you're both going through the process, because I feel like if you don't, you could be trying to like work the other person's passion and then having resentment later or something, or frustration of like, this isn't even the kind of people I want to be helping. And so I really suggest going into it and trusting that you're going to explore through all the conversations and through the exercises, like what unfolds, because you actually have a ton of different options, but those options are based on like what you two discover, right? So if you both have two different ideal clients, then like I was saying, you could easily do it as like a therapy practice where it's like, hey, this person specializes in PTSD and this person specializes in coping with, grief counselor kind of thing, right? Or I don't know, like differences in like specialty, but yet you guys are just under one, office, right? So you could do it that way. You could also do it that you're two separate businesses, like you have two separate websites, two separate domains, like they have different colors and brands and logos, and like they literally speak to your own individual clients, and that would be okay too. I think where I would start with it is ultimately, what is our goal? Do we want to be working together, or would we prefer to keep it separate? Like at our core, which one kind of are we both leaning towards, and see what you think. And then try to figure out, well, we definitely want it to keep this together. We want to be working together. So then what are all of our options for how we could do this if we work together? I talked about the therapy idea. You could have it be where, let's say they all meet with you first, Trent. And then after you're done with them, you can see that they've now like graduated onto like maybe mindset work, and your wife loves the mindset work, or whatever the case may be, right? It could be that maybe you guys have different specialties. So maybe she is helping them design allowance structures if they're parents, and talking to their kids about money, and more of like that aspect of things, like the household type things and family things, and you're doing more of the career or business side of things. So it could be that you guys tackle things that way. Like I feel like you've got a lot of different options. And it'll just come down from being like, well, what would you love to talk to a client about, and what would you love to see happen with the business, and who is your ideal client? What kinds of personalities of person do you definitely want to work with? You know what I mean? And see how much congruency there is there.
Yeah, no, I kind of felt along the same lines that we easily could do the same business, but also have separate ideal clients as well. But yeah, that's certainly stuff to chat about, but certainly focusing right now on kind of what I feel my ideal client is, and getting my why story out there. Hopefully tomorrow, everybody. We'll see.
And I would say too, like, the answer at this stage of where you guys are at Trent with her still working and that kind of thing, and sounding like she's not ready for a couple of years yet anyway, right? But like the idea is, the first step for you is you building your side of things anyway, right? Like you coming up with a website, or how we're going to talk to your ideal client, all that, because the idea is you want to be meeting with people much sooner. So we want to, get all that in place. You can always have a different domain or like an umbrella business name later. Does that make sense? So it could be like, if you have a very specific niche of working with military, so you could have it be where it's military money management or something. And hers is family focused, kids, allowance, structures, all that kind of stuff, dealing with an inheritance maybe, or whatever the case may be. And yours are starting first no matter what. And later you can come up with like, what's the umbrella name that could encompass both of those and still sound really good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We thought about, similar to you, Trent, is we had this conversation when Financial Coach Academy was really like taking off, it was like, do we have Fiscal Fitness be the brand. And on our website, it's like for clients and for coaches, like 2 tabs. And then from there, a person can really like go down the rabbit hole on what applies to them. Does that make sense? And ultimately, we decided that we wanted the brands separate. I'm still not 100% sure if that was the right choice or wrong choice. It's ultimately what we chose, and I'm happy with it. Like, I don't think there's any problems with it. But I remember just that being like, it felt like a very big choice at the time. And now I'm kind of like, if I wanted to change it, I could just change it. You know what I mean? So now that we've made a choice and moved on, it's like, feels like less of a big deal. Okay.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. Nicole, you're up next, my dear.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, but I feel like I can't see you anymore, but I could a minute ago.
When I said tap to speak, it turned my video off.
Oh, weird.
So let's see. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I have a few questions. So I'm kind of on the same page with Serenity and the fact that, like, now that I've been thinking about my why story and my ideal client, I feel like mine's expanding too. I originally also thought that I just wanted to help single moms or moms in general. But then I started thinking about my why story, which I haven't shared yet, but I'm still formulating it.
Okay.
But I did that little budget program for kids this summer, and it was more, at the time, I thought it was more of just, I need to do something because my entrepreneurial brain is going crazy, so I'm going to do this little kids program while I wait for FCA Live to start. But as I started thinking about my ideal client and my story, I realized that I want to empower kids along with moms, because I want them to be able to, like, because I was a foster kid. So I was fortunate enough that I got adopted, but a lot of kids leave the system and they don't have, like, once they're done at 18, they're kicked out of the system and they have no support. And so I really want to empower kids to know how to manage money, how to be entrepreneurial, how to always survive no matter what.
Yeah.
And so it's funny that she said that, because I'm kind of feeling the same way.
Yeah.
And then
so really quickly, let me talk on that for a second first. I would say that you could have both of those things. The question you probably want to ask yourself first is, like, which one's easier, faster, more natural for me to build quickly? Because in my opinion, Nicole, both of those are very connected to one another. It's not like you're saying, I want to do this, and then I want to do this, and they're like polar opposite. Like, they're very well connected. And I would say that one could definitely be a lead-in for the other. So, you know, whether you're doing these classes for kids and you're also offering coaching, and so all the parents get to know you and they learn to trust you and they come to you and say, hey, so do you do this for adults too? And you're like, by the way, yes, I do, right? Or is it that you're working with the adults and all of that, and then you hold these things for the kids and your clients are invited and they get to invite other people? And, like, which one, you know, is the easier lead-in for you, I would say? Like, which one feels more natural for you to build? Because here's the thing is, if it feels most natural for you, it'll feel easier as you're doing it, and you'll do it more quickly, likely, right? The other question I would say is, which one excites you the most? So they might both be right, but which one excites you the most is the one I would focus on first. And they're very much connected. They are. So, and that's why I'm saying, like, I think Serenity's is very connected too, in the sense that, like, her underlying community, the main point of it might be targeting moms. And inside of that community, it's her and a health coach, and, like, there's other people, and her expertise is in targeting a certain type of mom in that group. Or excuse me, the bigger group is women, Serenity, sorry. Like, you're attracting all sorts of women. Inside of there is a bunch of different types of coaches, and you're simply talking to the type of client that you want out of those women, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, I could see that they could be connected. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and what's your second question?
My other question is, and it's not even really related to my own stuff. I watched the Q&A call that I didn't get on it, but I watched it.
Okay.
And then when I was listening to everyone's questions and you were posing questions to them, I, like, had these thoughts come to my mind, and I wanted to say something. I'm like, wait, I'm watching a recording. So could we go, like, if we go back and watch a video and we feel like we might have some like posing questions for the other students that might help them with their why, should we share that in the group as like a Facebook video? Or
here's my take on this. Okay. I want to be respectful of the person receiving the feedback. Every single one of you enrolled in the course to receive feedback from me, right? You paid to essentially receive coaching and expertise from me. So I am openly going to be giving you feedback. When it comes to all of you, you did not pay to necessarily get feedback from somebody else, unsolicited feedback. Okay. And so some of you are super open to it and you're like, tell me everything. I want to hear what everyone has to say. I want all the feedback in all the ways. And other people are like, I really just need to stay focused on what Kelsa is telling me. So my request for all of you is that you simply say to the person, I have some thoughts. Would you like to hear them? Do you mind if I share them with you? Would that be okay? Or something like that before you share, and not just assume that, you know, they're open to like someone else's opinion that maybe they don't know quite well yet or something like that. And again, just let's give each person the right to choose what they feel most comfortable with. Does that sound okay, Nicole? Okay.
perfect.
It is always one of those
Yeah,
things.
that's why I didn't do it.
Yeah, it's always one of those things where I love praising publicly. So if you have thoughts, Nicole, that are like, I totally connect with that. Thank you for sharing. I heard your voice change when this, you know, like when you said this part, it sounded like you were really caring about that part of it. Like praise publicly, lift people up publicly, but ask if they're open to like the feedback otherwise. Does that sound okay?
Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily feedback. It was more of like, it was more like questions to help them really figure out. It was in reference to Lynn's story. So I was just thinking I had questions that would help her like figure that out, but I'll message her.
Okay, yeah, message her and ask her if she, you know, wants to hear those questions. And by all means, like if, you know, if Lynn at that point, if you do learn something and if it was helpful, like you can share that and say, hey, I got this question and it really helped me, and, you know, that kind of thing. So, and let's all like not take it personally if the other person's like, no, I'm good right now. Because we don't know, like some of these why stories can, in the business entrepreneurship journey, you guys overall can be challenging for a variety of reasons and at different times. So what's super easy to us is like really challenging for another person. Maybe that's when their imposter syndrome is really freaking out. They're having like fraud syndrome and they're like, I'm not cut out for this. Who am I? Like we get these thoughts at random times and you don't know when you're about to like deliver somebody constructive feedback on something they're already feeling maybe pretty sensitive to, right? So let's just all be respectful of each other. And if we're saying like, nope, not now, that's totally okay, right? And I'm sorry, I probably won't ask if I can give you feedback, but if ever you're in a spot to ask for help and you're just like, hey, I need help. And by help, I mean like, I need a little bit of a break. That's totally, you know, speak up, right? So that's what we want you to do. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Cynthia.
Okay, so listening to what you were saying, I just want to make sure that I am crystal clear because I have been trying to give comments to every single video, and I'm just focusing on like what is at least one thing that like a compliment that resonates with me, or so if there is a line crossed, so you would reach out and tell somebody like, stop it. Right?
I mean, I hope you guys have already learned from me that I'm probably going to be direct with you if I need to be. So, in a very loving way. I hope you know that as well. So, yes, we're all going to be successful. And sometimes, like, it's my job to read the room, if you will. It's my job to kind of, if I know a person, I do feel like I'm already getting to know each of you in a very, like, intimate way. Like, I always, like, have when the academy is over, it's like a loss in a way. It's really weird. And so because of that, I might know something about you that the other people don't know. Like maybe you're just really private about this one part and that's okay. And it's my job to just step in and say, hey, like that's, you know, let's ask permission next time or something like that. So yes. Okay. Is that okay, Cynthia?
Yeah. So yeah, I just like to listen intently and find ways to compliment people. And
yes.
I love the way that everybody's been building each other, so I appreciate that.
That I love. Do that publicly all day long, because I think it only can help, right? I think it's the other. It's like the coaching. I think so. Like have you asked yourself this, or what about this? Or like, and I feel like that's my job. That's what you all paid to receive from me. And so I just want to make sure that, you know, because we're all coaches, like it's all kind of part of who we are a little bit, right? So we sometimes go into coaching mode when we're not supposed to. Has anyone done that? I remember, oh my God, this was probably my first 6 months after leaving my full-time job to like give physical fitness like the real go. I remember being at, oh, it's so vivid, and just, oh, I have such humiliation, but at a networking event, and this woman was talking to me, and it was kind of afterwards, and it had all sort of like was coming to a close, and she was talking to me about how she was about to file bankruptcy, and you know, she'd already made the decision. She was going to meet with the attorney, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, you shouldn't. No, like I was so just opinionated when I didn't know anything, right? Like I didn't know anything about her. I was totally coaching her without her asking to be coached, and without like it was not in the right place. It was not the right time. She wasn't looking for coaching she was looking to like for me to validate her choice. And so I was not picking up on any of those signals. So I can't imagine that would happen in here, but we are all coaches too. So we all want to like be coaching each other, right? So, okay, sorry, that was my embarrassing story, right? Let's see, Joan, your hand is raised.
Yeah, so maybe I'm thinking about this too much. I do tend to be in my head a bunch, but does it have to be a group of people like women or like military, or could it be people with a certain characteristic? So for example,
Totally.
because I feel like working with people that are really embarrassed about their inability to handle money. So
Yeah.
I mean, can that be a category? Maybe that whole shame thing that Brene Brown was talking about really impacted me. But you know, that's what I think about. I mean, people are almost embarrassed sometimes to tell you what's going on with them financially, and they're really sometimes in a mess. And I like working with people that are in situations like that.
Absolutely. That to me is, I would rather have you focus on that and know that it could be a man suffering with, you know, the shame. It could be a woman. It could be an older person, a younger person, married, single, everything in between. It could be any color, any profession, you know, anything at all. And none of that at the end of the day is what is defining your ideal client, John. What's identifying your ideal client is the struggles that they're having, the desires they have for their life, the worries that are consuming them. And nothing else really matters sometimes, right? Like again, if you ever look at the avatar example of discovering your ideal client, it's very much on like, what kind of house do they live in? And like just certain attributes about them that in my ideal client, like none of those things, we can't find commonality in a lot of those characteristics. Does that make sense? I can't be like, well, 75% of our clients drive luxury vehicles. That's not something I can say. Like there's no common thread there. So I think it would be great if you focused. Imagine if your marketing message on your website and how you talked really kept talking about the shame aspect. Like you're going to attract those type of people for sure.
That's great, because I'm starting to get excited. I'm really getting excited for the first time. Yeah.
Yay! Oh, I'm so glad. Yes. Good. That makes me happy. So it'll definitely help you like as you're moving forward with all these small pieces, like keeping that in mind. So good. Okay. Nicole, your hand is raised. Oh, I can't hear you. Wait. Muted. Oh, now it turned off your video. Oh, there it goes. Now you're good. Must be like
I'm in the phone, so I have to do all these extra steps to be able to talk.
I appreciate your commitment.
I'm at my daughter's soccer practice right now, waiting for her to get done. So I didn't get a chance to watch listen to the Brene Brown Power Vulnerability yet. I have it, and I plan on listening to it on my way to Portland this weekend. Is it important to watch that before I start working on my vision for my business and my ideal client and my why story? Or will it just, I mean, should I wait and do that, or listen to that first?
I don't know the answer to that, Nicole. Part of me wants to say, no, I think like your why story is probably already there for you. And like, I want to say that. And yet I think that book has an ability to like help open up thoughts that maybe you didn't allow yourself to think, right? Or admit something to yourself that you hadn't even realized you needed to admit it, kind of thing. And so I think that could be helpful. Serenity's like shaking her head yes on that, but she agrees that that's good. I think it might help you to, there might be some fear and I can only imagine for you, Nicole, some of like the thoughts you might have, around life is short and like just these types of things that could be playing in your mind that it might help you to address. And I think you've already done a lot of that work already, which is really good. But I think either way you would be okay. But I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer for you on that.
And just in my defense, I ordered it through the library under my son's library card, and it came. And then I didn't realize that I didn't get the email. And a week later, I'm like, why hasn't that come yet? And then they sent it back. So I had to order it again, and I was on vacation. And I tried listening to it in my car, but I can't pause it. So I have to watch it, or listen to it,
the
straight
whole time
through.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think you're going to love it. So either way, whenever you get to it, I think it'll be valuable. So. Okay, let's see. Other questions? No one's got their hand raised. How many people, raise your hand, show of hand, read The Power of Vulnerability or listened, if you listened or read before, either on your own or because we sent out the email and said we think you should? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of you, and there are a couple of people I can't see. So, okay, cool. Mike says, yes, it's him. He's turning his video on just for us, just to say, yes, I read Power of Vulnerability. Thanks, Mike. I'm curious, and you can chat it if you want, or you can open up your mic. It's open dialogue, but I'm curious what you thought. Was it impactful for you? Was it just so? You can totally tell me, yeah, Kelsey, that wasn't as great as you said it was going to be, so it would be fine. Who wants to share with me?
I haven't spoken on here yet, so I thought I'd jump in. I loved it. So it completely opened up my mind and perspective, and then I started chasing down any other Brené Brown talks and stuff. I don't have Netflix or anything like that, so I haven't watched the whatever the video was that you had a link to for the Netflix session. But yeah, amazing, and it resonated on so many levels, and helped me understand perspectives from other people and some of the choices or decisions I make, or my mindset into why I'm making certain decisions. So I was sending it around to everybody that I knew, saying you've got to watch this.
Good. Yes. Yes, they do.
Because I think someone might take away. Yeah, I think even just if you took one little thing from it, not everything necessarily resonated on all levels, but just some of the little bits that you took away from. And I did the whole Amazon download, and we don't get that free in Australia. They change it to .com.au, so I had to keep trying to set up a different profile to get a .com free trial, and to get a book for free was pretty good. Yeah. We don't get a lot of freebies here. They always charge us.
Yeah. Do you guys, so I just have to tell you this really fast. So there's a part in the book where she talks about parents and how they have these sort of morbid thoughts about their kids sometimes, about what if this tragic, horrible accident happens? And she talks about that and why we do that, and that it's normal. And I'm not kidding you guys, Carmen's 3. So, I mean, I'm still a new mom, and I had those freaking freaky ass morbid thoughts, and I thought something was wrong with me. I was like, oh my God, what is wrong with me that I think these kinds of freak out moments, right? And so when I first heard that part of her, and she says that in a different book too, I was like, oh my God, I'm not crazy. Yes. So it was just little things like that, and that's a very specific example for me. But like Rachel said, she just has a way of helping you to understand that you can open up and it's going to be okay. It's still safe, and all the protective measures we do that I think are so subconscious to not open our minds and not trust ourselves to think differently, and that'll be okay. It's just crazy to me how I think we all do that. And I would have considered myself a very open-minded, open person, and yet that book helped me to open it even more. So
that example you just gave. Oh, sorry, Trenton.
Oh, Oh, yeah, I was going to say is just watching the Netflix and then some of the other part of it was, like I said, just so amazing that she can make it seem so easy.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned in that initial, and that kind of just pushed me to push that first initial video, was just that it did seem so easy. And then I go to do it. It's like, holy crap, this is not that easy. It was amazing. So kind of was really happy to at least just push that out there. And, I probably never would have done it if I didn't, come to contact with her somehow.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Oh, that's awesome.
So,
Good. Wonderful.
The other thing I thought was quite funny is that she's so A-type, and the fact that she kept on showing how what she thought was going to be the outcome completely changed, and then she had to go and work on herself and go through that experience so that she wasn't just a talking head, and she actually experienced it and practiced it in her real life. And the area that you just mentioned before about the kids, that was something that, I would cry at every single movie or something that had a kid in it, because you'd be putting your kid's face in there, or you'd go to, like she said, you'd put them to bed and you'd be thinking, if something ever happened to you, instead of going, oh, I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, so true. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Yeah. Anybody else want to share? I see some hand raised. I don't know if you have questions or if you want to share like your thoughts on the book. So we'll just do any more thoughts on the book before we answer any more questions. If you do, just open it up.
Okay, so thought on the Netflix show that she did was just, I thought I was an empathetic person, and then I realized that I want to be, but then I'm scared to be at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would be there and like show compassion, but I wouldn't be there with that person.
Totally
So
agree.
when I realized that I needed to be vulnerable and step into a place in my life where I felt that way, there was an experience with my daughter recently where she was hurting over something, and I was like, okay, I have to step into that. She missed her dog that we had to give away.
Aww.
And I was like, Claire, I had a turtle once
that
my parents gave away when I was at school, and I didn't get to say goodbye, and I know how it feels, and I'm really sorry. And it just opened up a whole new level of my daughter that I've never experienced before. And I was like, oh my gosh, Brene Brown, like, gave me another piece of my daughter that I never would have discovered if I hadn't stepped into vulnerability with her.
Totally.
And I'm starting to like do that in the business and, with coworkers and friends, and just, keep those healthy boundaries. Don't let people have that part of you that aren't in the arena with you.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, people who, are there being vulnerable, be right there with them.
We had multiple reasons for sending that out. One, we want you to come into the academy with an ability to be a bit more open or a bit more vulnerable to learning than what I think some people naturally do without reading that book. And then in a more advanced way is encouraging you to be that way with your clients too, right? Like step in. I mean, there's times where like I've cried over what my clients are going through. I feel it. I feel their sorrow and their anguish and that kind of thing. And yet that is an advanced topic, because as a new coach, you have to be careful to not take on their problems as sort of like your responsibility or something like that. So you have to be really equipped. So you don't want to jump into doing something that like she says, you get in the hole with them, but you know how to get out of the hole. So that's why you get in. But if you had gotten in, but you didn't know how to get out of the hole, then you actually just got in the hole with them, and that was stupid. You know what I mean? So as a new coach, you don't want to like get too emotionally involved if you can't then coach them responsibly at the exact same time, right? But you don't want to be so focused on coaching somebody responsibly that you don't sort of like get in the trenches with them. You know what I mean? Or like emotionally get in there with them. So any other thoughts on the book? We'll open it up. I know we've got some more people with questions. So, okay. Jacqueline.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm glad you made it to DC safely.
I know, with like maybe 13 minutes to spare getting on this call. So
I was like really nervous for you, because I hate when stuff like that happens when we're traveling.
We had a plan B. It would have been fine. We had a plan B.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I know. I wish I could be there with you guys right now. I'm like having major FOMO.
I wish you could too.
Okay. So my question is more along the lines of like, managing my personal business finances right now. I'm like the newer stages of setting everything up because I'm not full-time, probably like most people here, and I have a full-time job. I'm throwing like a huge percentage of my business finances toward growth right now. Is that okay? Should I be trying to pay myself at this point? Like, I don't need my business income. So I don't know how to handle this.
So there's so many things that just ran through my brain in like a split second. So let's see if I can make any of them coherent. Okay. The first thing is a lot of it depends on your own goals. So if you are, just because you don't need your income, if at some point you want to be able to replace it, then it's good to begin practicing replacing it every once in a while, even though you don't have to, right?
Okay.
I wouldn't say, have to start tomorrow, but like even just getting $50 a month, Jacqueline, is like your paycheck, so that you have the time in place, the habit in place. It's always easier to increase the amount over time versus like start something from new. So I would say start even, again, I'm not joking. It can be $1. I'm not joking. It's like $1 every 2 weeks. That way you are used to paying yourself every 2 weeks. There's an emotional component to that. Okay. I would say it is very normal to invest in yourself and in your business at first. That's why I do often think from a financial standpoint, when somebody says, well, should I take the academy? I'm working full time. And I'm like, well, if you're working, that's kind of a good place to start, because you've already got all your bills covered, and, you don't have to worry necessarily about, I need this next client in order to pay my rent, right? Like that's not a good place to come from. So I think that there's a benefit there. One of the things that I've seen people do, and it's a trap, is that they think they can't go full time because they're not ready yet. And they just keep going for one more coaching program, one more course, one more activity that they just need. And what they're doing is using it now as a crutch. Okay?
Right.
So you will never be perfect. None of us will be. And, I say this all the time, which is to adopt a growth mindset in your business. Growth for yourself. Who do I need to get, what skill do I need to get better at so I can grow my, business in that way? But then also the strategies, like new social media, when they change their algorithm, take another $49 course someplace, right? Or something. So just continue to be a student of your craft. And don't use the training as like a crutch that, I'm not ready yet. I can't be ready. I need to do this one course yet. I think the best thing you can do is set sort of like a target date, and then tell yourself, what am I going to have in place for that target date? And almost treat it like a wedding planning checklist, where the wedding planning checklist, like you put the date of the wedding and then it says, okay, 3 months before you're going to have this done, and 4 months before you're going to have this done. It kind of like tells you the timeline for things based on your end date, right? You can do the exact same thing. So like, I would love to leave my job in 3 years, totally just throwing out timelines. I don't know. Which means, 3 months before that, I need to have 12 recurring clients. A year before that, that means maybe I'd like to have 6, just so I know I'm like at least getting closer. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So like just reverse engineering the whole process.
Yeah, because I think it's normal at first to be like investing. And so it's kind of nice to have the job. And I think if you're also in the lucky position of like still enjoying your job, and it's not something that you despise and hate going to work every day, and like all of that, and there's always that transition. Sometimes I think that we start to hate it more towards the end, so it's easier to leave, right? Like things start to annoy us, and then we build that emotion up so that it's easier to say goodbye. So, but if
that's
you're
totally happening for me, and I'm having a hard time with that.
Yeah, it's a very natural thing. The more, Jacqueline, for you, because you've been, if you think about it, like you started by tiptoeing into financial coaching, and then you got a leg in, and then so for every little step you're taking to get closer into the financial coaching world, less of you is now in the teaching world, right?
Yeah, and it's really weird. Like I'm having a really hard time with it. Today was our first day with students, and it was a really weird first day.
You're emotionally gradually becoming less attached to it, and it's it's the process of transition. It's when it's part of the process. And I would say when transition is abrupt, it's sometimes harder. It can also be harder to have it be so gradual that you're like experiencing it and feeling it, almost like you're witnessing the loss of something from afar. It's like you're watching it play out in front of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
I would set a date. I think that might help, right? And then start sort of reverse engineering it from there. Because what you don't want to do is like be in a place where it's really just fear stopping you from taking the next step, right? But everything's now in place, but you're still like
Is there like
killing yourself for time and you're burnt out because you're working 2 jobs sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I think this school year is going to be, is I'm going to be really burned out. I keep just telling myself it's like a short season of sacrifice where I'm just going to like push really hard and then hopefully make that season short. You know what I mean? So it's not lasting 3 years. But is there like a percentage based, like, I know the profit first system, but I don't feel like those percentages are very accurate for what I should be trying to do, like in terms of a target, do you think? Or
percentage as far as the paycheck, or just in general, all the like the business expenses and your overhead and your growth and that kind of thing?
So I guess percentage, like I understand how to define my paycheck based on my personal expenses, right? Like all my bills and things like that. So I know what my bottom line number is. And that, but I don't know like what percentage of my revenue should be that number. So like if I know, for instance, I need $3,000 a month, you know what I mean?
See.
Like what percentage should the $3,000 be?
You know what I would
do
yes, I totally see the question you're asking now. Okay. And I don't have a percentage for you, but what I would like for you to do is you just hopefully went through the exercise of like defining that business vision that you have, right? Like, do I want to have a team of people? Do I want to be by myself? Do I want to have an office, or do I want to work from home? I would create, based on kind of your area, like your city that you live in, your ideal budget. That's what I would do. So like, how much do you think you're going to pay for an assistant? If you are looking for an office, what's rent's going for around there? You know, can you just like rent for $200 from a CPA down the street, or are you looking at like $2,000 for some cities, right? Crazy amounts, right? Right. Try to put all those numbers in place, and then add in your paycheck on top of that. And I would say when it comes to personal development and business development, like training and growth, I would err on the side of higher than lower, because I think it is the area where most people undervalue themselves at the beginning. And it's kind of like when they actually invest in their business that they really start to like see dividends and results. I know that happened for me, and I've heard that from so many people, so many coaches who have taken the academy that had been coaching for a couple of years, took the academy, and it's like that was the first time they really invested in their business. You really have to consider your business a true business, that it's something worth investing in, right? Like there's an emotional decision there that has to happen in order to actually invest money into it. And so the idea is that not only does that financial investment hopefully pay off, but it's like that commitment that you just made emotionally to it really pays off too.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Kim.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. So as you know, I've been working with folks for a while now, and today everyone that I've worked with has just been wildly fun and rewarding. And so today I was contacted by a woman who was referred, to me from a friend, and she is in major crisis mode. Okay, like she got a letter from the IRS and had no idea that her husband had been behind in their taxes. One thing led to another, and it sounds like it's going to be quite the situation.
Okay.
So my question is, an hour or two with someone to determine, whether or not they're a good fit. I mean, and I guess I think it's fair to assume that not everyone's going to be a good fit.
Yeah. I have a question, Kim. Do you already know if she's a good fit or not? You're just afraid to say it?
I'm not really sure, to be honest with you.
You're still truly undecided, because you're talking as if you think she's not a good fit, but you're just not sure how to approach that maybe. But you're saying that's not it.
Well, that's a fair question. I guess I hadn't really thought about it. But, when I think about like what she has learned within the last week about her husband might cause her to want to get a divorce, and all of a sudden it's like this is way bigger than a financial situation.
Kim, are you excited by the prospect of working with her?
What's that?
Are you excited about the prospect of working with her? Are you excited about the idea that you might be coaching her soon?
If I'm being honest, I'm a little intimidated at this point,
Okay.
because I think it's more than coaching.
Okay. Yeah. So, this is a really good journey to be experiencing with others, because I want other people to sort of observe what's happening. And I know I experienced it as well, which is, we will likely start helping people that are just outside like our comfort zone a little bit, and they will challenge us to be better coaches throughout that journey, right? Like it'll be like, okay, that intimidates me a little bit, but I think I can do it. Let's see how this goes. And it will feel a little scary and a little terrifying, but it should also feel right. Okay. And then there are times where, it's like, that's outside my wheelhouse. And that's not really something I ever see myself needing to know again. That's like truly outside my wheelhouse. And I won't feel any better necessarily serving all of my other clients by going down this road. Somebody else with this area of expertise is better equipped to do this than me. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
And so oftentimes if you just sort of like ask yourself the question quite bluntly, like, am I equipped to help this person and take this leap of faith with her? Either like your gut will kind of tell you yes or no, and you just have to listen to it. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. 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 And, again, my reservation is that it sounds like to me, she's trying to decide whether or not she should go for a divorce because of, the lack of taxes and now they might lose their house.
Yes. So here's what I would say. So,
Yeah.
One way to like tread lightly or move forward, but also like with some boundaries in place, is to be really honest and say, I'd like to talk to you. I think I can help you with this area of what you have going on. I want to be clear that I am not probably the best person to maybe help you with this other area over here.
Right.
Be very clear. And then you can also say, this isn't something that I've done before, but I'm excited to learn about it and do it with you, as long as you're going to be patient with me and I'll be patient with you. Like, I may not know the answer right during the session, but I really believe that I can help you, and I'm excited to kind of take this next step with you. A really good person that role modeled this just recently is Michelle Waymeyer. She's a financial advisor, but also a financial coach. And she had a client who kind of asked her a question, and she was like, I don't know anything about this area of finances. It had something to do with like business financing or investors or something, angel investors and all that. She was like, but I just told the client, this is the role I'm going to play, and I don't know, I'm going to be learning as I go with you. Are you okay with that? If not, I'm glad to refer you to somebody who's like, this is their expertise, but this is where I'm coming from, and I'm ready to take the next step with you if you're okay with that. But I just want to be really clear with my level of expertise in this. And that's how I would approach it, always with like total clear expectations of what they can get from it, what they can't get from it, what you're willing to talk about, what you're not willing to talk about. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I have a client who, different scenario, but similar sort of result is, and he has a gambling addiction. And so I talk with him about the boundaries we can put in place with his money to make sure he doesn't have access to his money when he's at the casino, right? So it's very much financial strategies, financial mindset, financial maneuvering, and all of that, which is what I do. Now, I'm very clear with him that I cannot help you on the addict side of things. I am not an addiction therapist. I believe that maybe there's a root of trauma there, but I don't know. I don't have any like training to say that. That's just a total opinion from like life experience that I have, right? And so I'm just like, I think you need to talk with an addiction therapist while we're doing this, because what we're doing is putting a Band-Aid on something, but you're going to keep cutting yourself over and over and over again if we don't get the addiction part of this solved. So it was kind of like this rule. I said, if you're going to meet, I'll meet with you, but you also have to meet with an addiction therapist, because we need to be solving the true problem, not me just giving you a prescription that masks the symptoms. Right.
Yeah.
So, and he's doing that, and it works great. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So she might need a marriage therapist. She might need a mediator. She might need, a life coach while she's working with you. And this is where I think one question that you could ask her, Kim, is, do you think you can tackle both of these areas of your life at one time? because like you might be
Mhm.
helping her with finances, but if she's doing some like big work around her marriage and like it's okay. It's normal that we can't like fix everything about our life that we feel is broken or like all at one time, right? So I would maybe ask her like which part of this feels most urgent to you.
No, that's a great question. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we are going to wrap up. Thank you for tuning in my Airbnb hotel room / hostel. It feels like a hostel because we're in DC and everything is very, very small here, it feels like. So let's see. We will be on Saturday morning next. So remember, no class on Thursday. So Saturday morning next, we'll be giving everybody feedback on your why videos that just got posted today. There were probably quite a few. We were on a plane all day, but we'll tune in tonight. I'm excited to see what is out there, and any that I have not given feedback on, we'll be doing that probably from a couch or something. So, but I will be doing it. So I'm excited. So, all right. I will talk to you guys on Saturday morning. Bye, everybody.
Good luck with your FinCon presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it'll be fun. It's not till Saturday. I have time to prepare still.
Oh, okay.